Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I'm going to teach you guys how to get filthy rich off of logbooks. So this is a super duper accessible strategy which most players are going to be able to do with a reasonably geared character, as long as you can kill a boss or two, or you're kind of on the level where you can do T16 maps and also defeat red conquerors. This is a strategy that can earn you an absolutely obscene amount of money. Multiple people playing along with me on stream and, checking out what I was doing and we were having a good time have all farmed a headhunter in 1 or 2 days of pretty hard gameplay. So, it's fair to say this is one of the most profitable things that you can do right now. It's super duper accessible and it's actually a lot of fun, and it's not too brutal. It's fairly forgiving, unlike some other things like Legion 5 ways. Most characters can do it. I'm on here on a Soul Rest Necromancer, for example, and it's super duper good. Now, the thing you need to remember is that there's actually quite a lot of knowledge you need in order to make sure that you make profit from logbooks. And that is exactly what this video is going to teach you. But obviously, if you have no idea what expedition is, you should go check out how to get the maximum out of your expeditions. My first video I did on Expedition League. And then if you want to get into logbooks and you have no idea about logbooks, go check out my logbook guide. It's going to pay off in the long run. If you're trying to make currency in this game, or you're trying to get into the lead mechanic, watching those two videos is going to be critical. And then finish it up with this one, and you're basically going to be well on your way to farming any sort of chase item, as logbooks are incredibly overpowered in terms of the loot that they yield, and buying them and running them is going to make you a ton of currency. And we'll go into that now. All right, so I'm going to take you guys through the full process of exactly how you're going to make money off of logbooks, where all the money's coming from, what to look out for, and all sorts of stuff like that so that you don't brick any. So let's get into it. So it all starts off with the trade website. So in order to obviously acquire logbooks, you're going to need to purchase them off other players if you want to farm them consistently. You can farm logbooks yourself, but overall they are reasonably rare. They're about a 1 in 5 drop chance if you're getting all the running monsters out in your maps. That's from my testing. So they're not super duper common, and if you want to farm logbooks all day, it definitely pays to be purchasing the logbooks yourself. So if you've watched the other videos, you'll be familiar with the different faction types of logbooks, and you'll know that the two that we're looking for here are Black Scythe Mercenaries and Knights of the Sun. Those are the currencies which line up with Danig and Tujen, and basically overall they're going to be the most powerful, the most sought after, and you're going to be able to sell them effective immediately. There's tons of people buying that currency, and it's incredibly liquid. So in order to search for the two things that we want here, we're going to set an add stat group here, and we're going to count. And in the count, we're going to go Black Scythe. So that's going to be one of them. And we're going to go Knights of the Sun, which we've got here. So, and then we're going to type 1. So basically what the search is saying is that I want to search for all logbooks, and I want it to either have a Black Scythe Mercenary, or I want it to be Knights of the Sun. Now, from my testing, the best loot comes from 81 plus logbooks. It's got the highest chance to spawn bosses. It's got the highest quantity of expedition currency drop rates, and overall, it's going to be the best. However, you could probably get pretty good results if you're getting lower level logbooks for a cheap amount. So I would recommend checking that out if you want an alternative to what you're seeing here, or if what we're seeing in this video no longer becomes profitable as too many people are doing it and the price of logbooks are too high. But we'll get into that later on, as I don't think that's going to happen. All right, so next up, if you want to follow exactly what I'm doing right now, you're going to want to come to item level, which should be around, where is it? Level, mapped here, I think it's, yep, here it is, item level, and you want to put in minimum 81. And you also want to set here, corrupted, no. Because you don't want to be buying corrupted logbooks, because rolling them is going to be good. So you can see here that we have a number of logbooks which are available to us, which have a number of different modifiers and areas. So what we're looking for here is Black Scythe, or obviously Knights of the Sun, and you can see here that every single logbook here will have those on them. And they are at varying different prices. So how much should you be willing to pay for a logbook? So right now, I would probably say anything under 50 chaos is a pretty damn good deal, assuming you know what you're doing and you're not actually going to brick any of them, and overall you're very reasonably knowledgeable about the mechanic. Anything under 50C is basically you can't lose money and you're just going to profit on average. Obviously, if you do it over a reasonable sample size, you're going to be pretty good. So yeah, you can see all the logbooks here, but you can try buying these, but logbooks are pretty hot kind of real estate right now. Tons of people are probably spamming everyone out, trying to get all these logbooks and all sorts of stuff like that. So the method I recommend for actually purchasing logbooks is to come up here and activate what's called live search. So if you activate live search, you can see that it's now searching. And it basically, as soon as one is listed, you will be able to purchase it effective immediately. There's one, there's two. You can see 45C, 45C. You can purchase them straight away, and you can PM them, and you can get them really, really, really quickly. Try and go for 45C or lower, but overall, it's not too bad. And you're going to be really good there. We'll get into what you're looking for in terms of the best mods and all sorts of stuff like that in a second here. But overall, that's kind of the strategy you want to be going with there. All right, let's get into a little bit more advanced stuff now. So once you acquire your logbook and you're ready to go, you're going to want to purchase something called a a phenomenal plague and arachnid. A little bit of a mouthful there. So the phenomenal plague arachnid is essentially an item which is going to allow you to duplicate the logbook you just purchased once. It's a bestiary beast. Basically, you buy this off of another player. Most of the time, people have lots of these in stock. They are something that is fairly easy to farm for certain groups of players for some reasons. But fair to say that there's going to be a lot of these available throughout the league, and they're a fantastic way to make it so that when you buy your logbook, you can immediately split it, and then you can get into doing the logbooks quickly. So essentially, it's going to give you another version of the logbook you just purchased, cheaper, and also it's going to save you trading with more players and kind of competing over more of the logbooks. So you should always be splitting your logbooks, and you should be making sure that you do that. It's going to cut down on trade time, and it's also going to make it a little bit cheaper for you in the long run. So once you buy the beast, you're going to need to essentially activate the orb, and then you're going to come to the menagerie with your beast and also your logbook. You're going to come over here, and then you're going to put your logbook in here, and then you're going to type in split. And then you'll be able to split the logbook in half. It needs to be rare first, but then it's essentially going to duplicate your logbook. Then you'll have two of the same one, and you can roll them and do whatever you want with them. You can't duplicate them further, but that's kind of a good way to make sure that you're being most efficient, and that's going to help you out a lot in the long run. So pretty cool there. So that's going to be trading and acquiring your logbooks to farm. It's pretty easy to purchase them. I purchased about 25 logbooks and 25 plague arachnids in about 30 minutes. And that's a ton of logbooks and stuff like that. I purchased them for 45C even after the word was out, so I don't think that they're going to appreciate too much in value overall. Let's get into the juicy part though. How much can you expect to earn? So now that you guys know that, let's get into exactly where the money is coming from and how much you can expect to make from this strategy. All right. So in order to actually give you guys a pretty good idea of kind of what's going on with the currencies and sort of stuff like that, and how much you can expect to make, I ran 2081 plus Black Scythe logbooks, and I recorded only the expedition currency that I received. So all up, these logbooks specifically, I got them a little bit cheaper, but we can pump that number up to 45. So we'll just go equals 45 times 20. So we can pump that up, and now you see it's 45, which is great. Even with these numbers, you can see just out of running 20 logbooks, the overall profit that I made simply off of selling the expedition currency itself is 632 chaos. So that's pretty crazy. So you come into the logbooks, you do the logbooks, and you get all the expedition currency, you sell it all, and you make a profit guaranteed. Not counting any of the other loot in there, and if anyone's done a logbook, you'll know there's plenty of that. But overall, it's incredibly profitable. So very, very strong indeed. So moving on though, let's take a little bit more of a breakdown and see where the money's coming from. So if you haven't had a really good close look at the expedition currencies, a lot of them are fairly valuable. A lot of them go for a lot of money, and they sell very, very fast to players playing around with the different vendors like Tujen and Danig. They basically sell effective immediately. So we're going to come in here, and I'm going to teach you guys a little bit of what you're looking at here with the artifacts here. So overall, the Grand Black Scythe artifacts, or the Grand artifacts in general, will be the most expensive. And in the case of Black Scythe, they're worth around 5.5 to 1C. So anytime you drop a stack of 30 of them in a map, that's 6 chaos right there, which is pretty damn good. The lesser Black Scythes are around 530-ish to 10C. So anytime you drop a stack of 100 like that or something like that, that's 2C right there. And then the greater Black Scythes, a little bit cheaper, similar deal though. Anywhere you get 100 of them or something like that, 150 of them, that's 2C right there. And then the last one here, which I've already sold all of mine, are the common ones, which are worth significantly less. I think they're about 1,000 or 800-ish to 10C. So overall, the actual currencies themselves are worth a very, very high amount, and you get an absolute ton of them, and you should be prioritizing them in your logbook runs overall, and it's going to definitely yield you the best results. Okay, so let's take a quick look here. So I got 99 exotic coins from 20 maps. So on average, that's 5 coins per map. If you guys didn't know, bosses drop a significantly higher amount of coins here, and that's going to be around about like 6 to 10, in that kind of ballpark there. And then on top of that, the runic monsters can drop additional coins as well as currency. So runic monsters are very, very powerful indeed. In addition to that, Grand, Greater, and Common and Lesser all obviously sell for a significant amount, and you get tens of thousands of these in the case of the lower three, and then obviously I got almost 2,000 Grand Scythe artifacts. So overall, massive profits. So how fast can you expect to do this content? Well, overall, I would estimate that you could probably do 5 logbooks an hour with a reasonably geared character, and you're focusing and doing it pretty efficiently. So, overall, that's like 4 hours for all of this stuff like that, including the 30 minutes of 15 to 30 minutes of actually trading here. I'd probably say that you probably make, like four and a half, so 632 divided by 95. Divided by 4.5. So you're making around 1.5 exalts profit per hour guaranteed. It's guaranteed. You pretty much can't lose money in the long run. Overall, you might have a few logbooks which go, a little bit here and there. But, overall, it's going to be basically a straight up money making win. And that's just off of the expedition currencies alone. Very, very good indeed. All right, let's talk about a little bit about other stuff here that drops in the expeditions. So of course, there's going to be plenty more stuff on this in the future, but overall, expeditions drop a ton of different items, maps, currencies, all sorts of stuff like that. The highlight I think I got was 4 exalts in 1 expedition logbook. That's a discussion for another time. But the main thing I want to point out here is that the expedition rewards, specifically the map chests, actually respect your atlas. So when you're actually doing expeditions, it's very, very important to make sure you have a high Awakener atlas, and also some favorited maps which will sell fairly well. You can sell stuff like Tropical Islands in bulk for 12C, and that's going to increase your profits significantly. I don't know how many tropicals I have. I think I probably have like 1. Yeah, but overall, you can make quite a lot more money. I've gotten a few Elder Guardians here. I think I've gotten 2 or 3 of those. You can get Exalt Shards, raw chaos, raw currency, all sorts of stuff like that. There's another Elder Guardian there. There's basically anything you'd find in any of the other endgame lead mechanics is there, but it's also got stuff like Corrupted Essences available to it. You can get Simulacrum Splinters if you're good at it, all sorts of stuff like that, Runic Ritual Vessels and stuff like that, which sell for like 10 chaos each. So right now you can see that my net worth of excellence, this is from I think around 15 runs, is 743 chaos just in random stuff, not including the actual lead mechanic rewards itself. So that's actually very, very strong, and overall you can kind of expect to probably make double the amount of money just off of the random stuff that you'll be selling as well, in addition to your normal fare, which you're expecting to get from selling the expedition currencies itself. So it wouldn't surprise me if you're looking at around 3 exalts per hour as an efficient player from logbooks, which is definitely going to get you there and get your chase items reasonably quickly, as long as you're dedicated to the cause and you're willing to sell the items that drop. So let's talk a little bit about min-maxing this stuff. So if you're interested in what it looks like to do a full logbook run with commentary, I'm going to upload a commentary of me doing a logbook after this, and you guys can follow along. I basically explain my entire thought process, what I'm going for, why I'm going for it, how I plan it out, and everything that I'm looking for. That's going to be uploaded after this. Highly recommend checking it out if you really want to get into logbook farming, as it really does help you and enforce what you should be going for here. So the first thing you want to take a look at is, of course, we've discussed the factions. You need to do that correctly, but then the areas. So overall, the actual reward remnants, if you guys don't know what those are, again, check out my other video. The overall reward remnants aren't too impactful outside of simulacrum splinters, scarabs, and fossils. Those are the primary ones which are really, really going to bring in the bacon. So you can see where those occur and when you should prioritize them. You can, for example, in Cemetery, get sometimes up to 150 simulacrum splinters. If you set the simulacrum kind of remnants up early, you can get an absolutely egregious amount of simulacrum splinters just from doing a logbook. In addition to that, you can also get, upwards of, 10 to 20 scarabs if you set things up correctly and you get lucky with your logbook. So those can be things that you want to look out for, but they shouldn't dominate your focus. The main thing that you want to look for is the faction, but also the layout. So the layout is actually incredibly important, and all layouts are definitely not created equally. So, in general, logbooks have an amount of rewards in them. They have runic monsters, they have chests, and they also have remnants. Those are the three things. They also have, like, the bosses and the hideouts, but we'll get to them in a second here. All those three things definitely are very important, and you get a set amount of them per logbook. It's not like one logbook has more than the other. They actually have the same amount. Now, the thing that makes this interesting is that not all of the logbook areas are the same size. So an example of this is Dried Riverbed is an incredibly small logbook area. Overall, it's probably about, like, half the size or 2/3 of the size of the biggest one, and that basically creates a scenario in which the rewards and everything are more densely packed. So you get way more bang for your buck with your explosive charges and your 20 charges that you have available to you, meaning that you're going to get significantly more loot overall, and it's going to be easier to access big clumps of remnants early on in your run, and overall you're going to get the best results from the smallest layout expedition logbook layouts. In addition to that, indoor maps also do have some advantages to them because the terrain and all sorts of stuff like that does force the runic monsters and the remnants into, like, kind of like almost like this squished position where you can smash them with one explosive charge. Now, obviously, indoor maps have their downsides. They're significantly more rippy, and they're also harder to track through with your paths, but overall they can be quite rewarding, and a lot of people were having a lot of success with indoor maps. I personally shy away from them and trying to go for the smallest tile set like Dried Riverbed, but overall it can be pretty good. Definitely not too bad there. Okay, the next thing you guys are going to look for is actually the modifiers in the maps on the remnants. So overall, there's a few really big ones that are basically going to, like, double your loot straight up if you get them, and you need to be looking for them, and they're not immediately obvious at all. So of course you have your standard fare, which is, like, obviously the area specific remnants. Those aren't going to double your loot. Sometimes they can, with scarabs and stuff like that. But what you're really looking for is this bad boy here. Runic monsters are duplicated. So this is a pretty interesting one. Essentially what this does is each of the runic monster pillars, when you blow it up, it spawns 2 runic monsters instead of 1. And yes, these do drop loot, and yes, they do drop all of the other, kind of X% chance for runic monsters drop Y, and they also drop the reroll currency and the expedition currencies themselves, which makes it completely ridiculous. So if you get this in your map, it's essentially double runic monsters, which is really crazy. So, the thing that makes this particularly hard to spot, though, is that it's a prefix and not a suffix. So prefixes are essentially the bad things. That's the things that are, like, 100% chance to get hit. Monsters are immune to fire and cold and all that stuff like that. And it's not indicated at all. What it looks like, it's basically just a normal line, and everyone's basically going to miss it unless they know to look for it. So you need to scout for that. It is a prefix, it'll be on top, and it's not going to look like a reward, it's going to look like a penalty, and you're going to want to look for that, and you're going to want to gun for that as soon as possible if you find it in your map, and then kind of try and cherry pick all the other runic monsters as you're getting double value from them overall, and that's going to make it so you get significantly more loot from the map. Very important there. And then the next thing I want to point out here is that there's a ton of suffixes which are completely worthless and are just going to make your life a living hell. So overall, anything that isn't marked in green, and sometimes in yellow you can go for as well, you pretty much want to flat out ignore and try and avoid as remnants, as they're just going to make your life much harder. There might be some value in some of these, if you want to, really go for it and test it out, but overall my experience with them haven't been very good, and it just serves to make the logbook more rippy, more time consuming, and more difficult. So the main standout one here is, of course, the 50% chance to drop an additional currency item. This can drop exalts, it can drop mirrors, technically, it can drop divines. A bit of anecdotal evidence, I've probably run about 40 logbooks. I've gotten the divine one once, and I've gotten the exalt one once. So 3 and 3 there, just straight from this this modifier here. Definitely pays off to get this early, and it also does stack twice. Doesn't stack 3 times, only stacks twice to 100%, so guaranteed essentially. And it does, work very well with runic monsters that are duplicated. You can get some pretty ridiculous results when you stack these together. Next one is stacked decks. Pretty damn good. Definitely not nothing to sneeze at there. This specifically one, the logbook one here, doesn't actually work in logbooks. It's not present, but that's obviously a good one in maps. But the other ones that you want to look for here is quantity of items drops by monsters. This is, in my opinion, does affect the actual number of things dropped, and also the quantity of items in chests. This is a very noticeable increase, and it basically multiplies the loot table, it seems like, on these chests. So at the start of the map, you might open an excavated chest and it drops 2 or 3 items, like 2 or 3 essences. Compare that to a one at the end of your run, and it'll drop like 7 essences or something like that if you have enough remnants on it. It's ridiculous, very, very noticeable, and you should be gunning for these wherever possible. It's a massive more multiplier on the loot, and it also, in my opinion, does multiply the amount of, obviously the currencies as well as reroll currencies as well. So it's very, very good there. You should be scooping these up at every single turn. So those are the things you really want to be looking out for on remnants and also, in general. The next thing I want to talk about here are secrets in the maps. So there is actually a myriad of secrets hidden away in logbooks, like tons and tons and tons of them. And the example I want to use here, maybe it's in the stream that I was showing here. It is unfortunately not. Wait, I think it might be. It is unfortunately not. Basically, there are hidden areas in maps, in logbooks, and these will be marked on the minimaps somewhat, but they won't be marked with an icon, for example. They'll essentially be terrain that looks a little bit out of place, like kind of like little hidey holes in cemetery. It's like blocked off areas of the cemetery, which have big walls in the way. These contain additional chests and runic monsters, and when you blow up these doors, they yield more loot. And in terms of the like kind of charge efficiency, you can kind of like get a lot more loot for your time, and it's definitely worth kind of trying to scoop these up when you move around your logbook, and overall it's going to be really, really good indeed. So very strong there. So that's pretty much main things you want to be looking out for with the old logbooks here. Hope you guys have kind of picked up some tips here. So closing thoughts, essentially, logbooks are one of the most profitable things you can possibly do in the game right now. Easily, definitely right up there for accessibility as well. So if you're your average player, one of the best things you can do right now is get invested in logbooks, understand them, make sure you get really good at them, and then you're gonna make a ton of currency and you're gonna be able to achieve your league goals and finally get a character which is able to do like a lot of the content in the game. But the other thing I want to talk about here is why I don't think logbooks are ever really going to change too much in price, and they're going to be a fairly stable thing to do. So if you take content, for example, like Shaper or you like Uberelder or like anything in the game, all of the items are depreciable over time due to the fact that they can have too much supply overall, and they fall out of favor. People already have the item. No one wants the items off them anymore. So it's kind of a supply and demand thing. The thing that makes logbooks and Expedition by extension so broken is that it is basically pegged. The price is pegged against the entire game of Path of Exile due to the fact that 2gen exists. So 2gen, essentially, obviously the haggler, basically offers everything in the game. He offers Cortex, Guardian maps, Guardian fragments, every currency in the game pretty much, essences, ritual splinters, also like he offers everything in the game. So overall, like it's almost like buying an index fund or something like that. The actual currency of Expedition really can't depreciate in value because it will just immediately just be profitable and go buy all the currency and then buy exalts. So overall, I don't think that Expedition will ever be not profitable to do. It's probably going to be insanely profitable for the duration of the league and every single league to come in which it's present. And I think it's a very, very, very good mechanic for chilling out, having fun. And there's a lot of skill involved in making sure you plan out the correct route, and it massively impacts how much loot you can get. So if you want to get good at a mechanic, you want to practice up, you want to improve, it's definitely a good one to go for. It's very, very rewarding, and it's not too bad either to sell it. You can basically make all your money back and some just by making 5 or 6 really, really quick trades at the end of your mapping session. So it's really, really easy to play, and it's super duper good. So if you guys have enjoyed this guide to getting rich off of logbooks, if you liked the video, make sure you hit a thumbs up and subscribe, and definitely go check out my step-by-step on how I run a logbook. It's going to make a lot of these things kind of fall into place. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.